Hi, this is Kathy from Kathy Johnson Art. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can make a paper loop wreath like these. To get started on an ornament size wreath like this, the supplies that you're going to need will be a glue stick for the first part of the gluing, and then we'll need any kind of white glue that you have. I have some glue here in one of these little micro containers. I love this, but if you don't have that, maybe a container like this, or even an Elmer's glue container, or you can always just put some glue in a container and use a brush. That will work fine too. And then maybe a piece of wax paper for when we do start the gluing, so we can put this down and you're not getting glue on your table or having the pieces of paper stick to anything. So the paper that you'll need, you're going to need 10 strips of paper that are 3/4 of an inch by 3 1/4. Now that's the size that I used to make this one here. I'm going to be working with paper that's a little bit bigger, just so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. And if you're curious about what kind of paper you can use, there's lots of flexibility on this. You can use, an easy thing to do would be to just find some scrapbook paper that is two-sided, and this is cardstock. Cardstock works fine. Or it can also be a lighter weight scrapbook paper, and then I painted, this was one-sided, and I painted the light blue on the inside. So I did that for a couple of these where I just put a little bit of like a pearl paint on this and on this one as well. But these were all one-sided scrapbook papers, and they were not cardstock, just regular weight paper. If you wanted to paint your own paper like I did here, you can use just some either drawing paper, mixed media paper. I have these, it's a Dick Blick 80-pound mixed media paper, or a Dick Blick drawing paper that's 80-pound. Those work really well. And then I like to have a lot of sparkle and shine when I'm working on holiday ornaments. So for the paint, I tend to use these very inexpensive craft type of paints. And like this is a pearl white, and the metallic. So the metallic or the glitter, like I did here. On the top part it's a metallic, and then on the inside you can see it's a coordinating glitter paint. So to get started on this one, like I said, I'm going to be using pieces of paper that are just a little bit bigger, just so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. And on here I'm alternating how I have these turned, because these are all the same. They're glitter on one side and then the metallic on the other. But I want to do 5 of them glued one way and 5 of them the other, so I can have this alternating wreath like this one here. So this is the part where we can use the glue stick. So I'm going to just put my wax paper down just so I don't get glue on my table here. So I'm separating it just so that I have 5, and I'll do 5 one way and then I'll do 5 the other way. So sometimes I will just actually take this and just twist it first so I know where I want to put the glue. So these 5 I'm going to do where I have the metallic paint on the outside and the glitter showing on the inside. So right here is the section that I want to put my glue on. Just kind of in a square, and then take your piece and just twist these around this way, and then you're matching up your points, and then you also want to have your sides even. And I'll show that again, make that a little bit clearer, I think. And then you do have to just hold it for just a little bit, just to make sure that it's going to hold. All right, so one more time, what I'm doing is I'm gluing here, and then when I turn this, I'm taking this point and making them meet and crossing this over. So if you look on the back, it looks like that. So putting the glue in that square, twisting this over, matching up those points so you get a nice little loop. trying to keep your sides even. That will keep your loops all the same size if you have the points matched up and the sides even. And for this part, a glue stick seems to work just fine. When we start gluing the actual loops together, we need something a little bit stronger to hold that. And there's a little bit longer gluing time for that as well. So there's 2. I'm going to do 3 more like this. Again, just lifting it and then just twisting it around to make that loop, lining up the points and the side edges. And I'm just kind of pinching it just to make sure that that glue is going to hold and dry. Later on, if any of these little edges pop up, you can always put a little bit more glue on there later. Just as long as the main part of it is holding steady, it will be fine. And just 2 more. And the glue stick gives you, it doesn't dry so fast that you still have a little bit of time to manipulate it and move it, because sometimes it goes right into position and other times you have to play around with a little bit to get your edges lined up and the points matching just the way you want them. Okay, so 1 more like this, and then I'm going to switch and start twisting them the opposite way. Okay, so I've got those first 5 done, and now I want to have these so that I'm going to be gluing on this side over here, so that when I twist it, I'm going to have the metallic on the inside and the glitter on the outside. Okay, and I'm going to speed this up while I do the last 4 so that you don't have to sit here and watch me glue each of these. Now this one's starting to come off a little here, so I'm going to put just a little bit more glue right on that edge to hold that down. Okay, and then once I get these 4 all glued together, I will show you how we will put the individual pieces together. Now that I have all 10 of my loops glued together, I'm going to glue them together in pairs. And the reason I do it that way is I found if I'm trying to glue too many of them together at the same time, I can't keep it flat and I have a hard time keeping these points in the middle. They get distorted and turned. So I found it easier to just do them in pairs and then I glue the pairs together. So since I'm doing alternating colors here, I want to make sure I do all my pairs exactly the same way so I can get them. I like to have them kind of lined up ahead of time. And then it just makes it a little bit easier. And I like to have the points facing me, which I will show you why in just a minute. All right, so to glue the first one together, I am going to run a bead down the side of this one here. Bead glue. And you want a pretty good amount of glue there because you really want these to hold together. And then just kind of put that side by side. And then of course you're matching up this bottom edge and this edge right here. But as well, you want to push down on here so that you're keeping your points in the center and you're keeping this flat. And then just continue on and do that with the rest of these. So I'll put a nice bead of glue down here. Now, it does take a little bit of time for these to dry, and generally what I'm doing is I'll work on more than one at a time, so I can have these drying while I'm starting the next part of another one. If I have about 3 going at the same time, then it hardly feels like I have any wait for the dry time at all. So again, my next one, I'm pushing down here, but making sure that this edge and that bottom edge line up right there, so they stay nice and flat. And the last one. And I want to let those sit until they're completely dry before we move to the next gluing step. So these pairs are all glued together, so we're ready to go to the next gluing section. So the next thing is I'm going to be gluing this pair to this pair, and then I'll be gluing these two or these three pairs together and then letting them dry, and then we'll be able to put the whole thing together. So again, I just want to have it sitting flat so they're just touching, the edges are lined up right here and down there, and then I'm just going to let that sit and dry. Another bead of glue here. And then I'm going to put the glue on this one so that I don't move those pieces, hopefully, as I'm trying to put this together. And I'm not pressing really hard, I'm just watching that the glue is getting on both pieces of paper and everything is nice and flat and the tops and bottoms are lined up, and then I will just let these sit and dry, and then I'll be turning that around and put the piece together. All right, these look dry enough now so that I can put the last two sections together here. So we'll be gluing that together. So I'm just going to lift this one up and put a piece of glue here, or a strip of glue there and there. Okay, and this one you have to kind of hold both pieces until they're stuck together enough that they're going to hold, and then you can just let it sit and dry completely. And then once they are dry completely, I'll come back and we'll put a ribbon on this one, and I'll show you a few size variations so that you'll have a few other ways besides ornaments to use these wreaths. I found this pretty light blue ribbon that has a little bit of silver in it that I thought was perfect for this turquoise wreath that I just made here. And I pre-made a small little bow that I'm going to glue on. And for the loop, I just took the ribbon and I just looped it around, similarly to what we did for making the paper loops for the wreath. And I pre-glued that down. So I'm going to just decide where I want to put the ribbon and where I want to put the loop. So the loop, I mean, you could put it on the outside if you wanted to. I'm going to put a dab of glue on the back here, and I'm going to stick it inside the loop and let that dry like that. And then I'll just put a bit of glue. Actually, I'll put the glue right here on the wreath, a nice big blob of glue, and then put my ribbon on there. I made 3 different size wreaths. The first white one is a 9-inch wreath, and I made that from strips that are 1.5 inches by 6.5. Then the middle one, which is the one I did during the demo, that is a 6-inch wreath, and that was made from strips of paper that were 1 inch by 4.5 inches. And then the third one, which I think is really a good size for a tree ornament, and that's a 4.5 inch wreath that is made from paper strips that are 3/4 of an inch by 3.25 inch. And I will have all of these the dimensions for each of the strips in the notes below, so you'll have that information. Here are just a few ideas for different ways you could use these wreaths. The larger 9-inch wreath is a nice size to use as a table decoration, or you could attach a hanger and display it on a door or on a wall. They also look really nice if you stack different sizes together. And the 6-inch wreath that I made during the demonstration just happened to have the right size space in the middle to fit a votive candle holder. You could also make multiple sizes and string them together on a ribbon or attach them to some greenery to make a holiday garland. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and will have fun making some of these wreath ornaments.